Good morning, guys. My name is Abel Zyl, and I am here at my workshop in Olympia, Washington. I build tiny houses under the name Zyl Vardos. And excuse me, I'm a little winded this morning because I was having some problems with a jammed stapler, believe it or not. But I wanted to get on the live stream for you, so I ran around and got it all worked out. I will tell you why in a moment. Because the topic of the day, to start out with, I'm here also to answer your questions, but the topic of the day is siding for tiny houses, and I knocked my head all funny. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about floor structures because I've gotten a lot of questions about those lately. And then I've got a few other cool things for you. And again, I'm going to answer your questions as I go along. I see there's a few people on here, so I'm going to poke the chat so I can see what you're talking about. Let's see. First off, I want to say a couple things. Welcome to Ask Zyl Live. This is my weekly live stream. It was start off as an experiment, and I'm getting a pretty nice response and having a lot of fun kind of interacting with people on the do-it-yourself level, which is precisely what I've been wanting to do for a long time, in addition to building interesting tiny houses. So if you are into this and you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, consider doing that because it kind of makes my YouTube channel work a little better. But also then you'll get a little notification when the next Ask Zyl Live goes up. And the other things that I put on my YouTube channel are my builders tours of my houses, and I've said that I've been working on many of those. I have a whole bunch filmed, I just haven't edited them because I'm a builder and not a videographer, so it takes me a long time. So if you're a little patient, I'll get tours up of a whole bunch of my really beautiful, cool tiny houses that I finished recently, and I've got even more in the works for you because I have one very special tiny house around my shop at the moment. You guys will figure out what I'm talking about. And the one I'm in right now is a new design. This is called the Fuchsia. Let me break you loose so I can. You're not going to be able to see much from the the inside of the house, but it has it's unique in that it has there's the lights, a kind of a double low-pitch dormer, and the roof's not all curved, which is interesting. But you'll kind of see what I did with this. We kind of pulled it all together, and it turned out really nice. I say it's turned out, it's getting closer to being done. So, what I am going to do, Jonathan Telfer says, love the hay hat. I love autocorrect too. It's really just funny that way. Yeah, this is a hat. It's not a hay. It's an old beret. It's kind of faded out. I need a new one. But I do like berets on occasion. I get accused sometimes of being French, which is somewhat accurate. One, I think, quarter of my lineage is Rossiter, which is a French, an old French name. So I am a little bit French. And I'm a little bit Norwegian. And I think I'm a little bit English. And the rest is kind of a mishmash. So as it is for many of us. I'm going to get on to siding here, and then I'll come back and look at your questions. So here is, I'm going to do it indoors because it's freaking amazingly cold out. I can give you a peek. What's going on out here? The farm is just like a cavalcade of mud. I have my whole screen up. Oh, there's that special tiny house I was telling you about. If you don't know what that one is already, it's like it was literally kind of sleeting and snowing here this morning. But that's what it's like outside. So I thought I'd rather do this inside because I can do it kind of demo style. I would have gone to do it on this house, but my carpenters are so quick, they've already sided the entire house. So I have to actually do it demo style, which is okay because sometimes it's a little easier to see what's going on. So here I have a small piece of, consider this the wall of your tiny house. I'm just going to show you the basic layers of siding, so you won't really see trim interface, and that stuff takes a long time anyway. But I want you to see just kind of the basic process of how a wood-sided house works. I'll talk a little bit about metal as well, because that's another valid siding material. So in a typical house, so consider this the sheathing. That's a little thick for sheathing, but consider this the sheathing. It would be nailed to your studs, and that is what creates the structure, the shell of your house. So I'm going to start right off. Let me grab my tools. And my knife. I got my knife. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna got a hammer right there. Okay. I don't actually. It's really interesting. I don't use hammers a lot, but you may, because hand drive nails, they're pretty slow, but they work. They're old technology. They're very strong. So, the first thing that you usually put on the side of your house. This material is known as OSB, which is, I used to be a little snobbish about it. I'm going to turn down my really bright light. My camera doesn't know what to do with it. I used to be a little snobbish about OSB, and then I realized that what is going on with it is that the amount of wood waste is so much less than plywood that it to me is as the future goes on, as our tree resources dwindle, it's a really more sustainable way to use the wood that comes out of our forests and even recycle. So that's OSB. I also use a lot of plywood for its sheer strength and lightweight, but it's expensive. OSB is a bit cheaper too because it's an easier manufacturing process. But I won't go into the details. Let's actually do some siding. The first thing that's usually done is a dissipative barrier is put on the outside of the house. I'm going to do that while I'll explain a little bit, but I will explain what that does and does not. Because this, in the barrier process, is a lot of confusion for people. Pardon the air compressor, but I'm going to leave it running because I'm going to be driving nails. It'll shut off in just a moment. So I'll just talk really loud. This is a hammer tacker stapler. This is my favorite one because it has the least jams of any that I've used. So Boss Stitch, hammer tacker. If you do a lot of building, if you just do a little bit, you can use a regular squeeze stapler. But these are just, you'll see why these are the bomb. I'm doing this solo. When you're doing this on a house, you can actually put up building paper solo, but if you have a partner, it's way more fun. Basically, you don't want to make too many wrinkles in your building paper, so I kind of stretch it tight. If you're working on a long structure, it's really awesome to divide it into sections. Although if you have help, you can do full lengths on a tiny house because it'll be like 22 feet or 28 feet or 18 feet, and you can still do that by hand. But if you're doing a really big structure, you can cut your building paper into 16-foot pieces and put individual pieces up and you just overlap the ends a little bit. That's way easier to handle. But I won't get too far into the efficiency thing. And I'll just put this up. So I'm going to get the top tacked in. You can use the side of the hammer tacker to tear down your staples if they don't get all the way in. And then I'm going to trim it. In this case, I've got a hard edge to trim against, so I'm just going to do that. And let's, so a good way to avoid wrinkles is to do stripes down the center. And I'm going to put a piece of wood behind this wall, this faux wall, so it does not tip over. Actually, put this little weird tray up. We'll just keep it from tipping too close. I'm going to recommend doing it on a house because on this little lightweight piece of material, basically, you know, one. Don't hit your finger with the hammer tacker. Doesn't feel very good. Yeah, and final, really important part. If you are leaving your building paper, it's called building paper, felt, tar paper, but this is not actually tar paper. It's a relative of it, known as Jumbo Tex. It's much better. And then I'll talk about some of the types really quickly in a moment, but I'm going to get the layers on here so you can see how this goes. The most important thing is all the perimeters of your building paper need to have staples at maybe like a 6 to 8 inch interval. A lot of people tack it on and if they get it flat, they're like, great. And then it sprinkles a little bit of rain, the wind blows, and it'll tear your building paper right off. So you've got to do the proper stapling. And then it basically saves time and material because it'll come off the house. It's soft. You know, it's usually kind of soft material, and it'll pull off the staples and off it goes. I just use standard 5/16. They're like the Aero T50 type staples. Anyway, so there's the first one. So just to be true to my words here, I'm going to do the bottom because that's part that will blow off your walls like this. And you can see that when you have a hammer tacker, it's easy not to get lazy because you just keep firing away. As long as it's not jamming, you can just keep rolling. So we're going to do the top part. This might be easier for me to do in sections, so I'm just going to pull off the stuff. You can measure this out on the floor. You can have another person that's working with you measure it for you and bring you pieces. You barely need a team of more than a couple people to do this kind of stuff, but so I measured off a piece, and I'm going to, this is going to be really funny to do by myself. It has a line, different materials have different overlap amounts, but it has a little line on it that shows how far it needs to overlap. And then I'm going to make sure that it's where I want it. And you notice that I put three staples at a time in? That's because a single one usually tears out when you try to square it up. So I'm going to do that. Knocking things off the other part of the house. And then I'm going to pull it outward. So you kind of like work out the wrinkles by working out from the center or down from one end. And then that. Now we'll do our center line. And then a second line. And the third line. Okay. That does the job. You'll notice that I kind of hustle a little bit, and that is, part of building. Like, once you get the beat, if you're do-it-yourselfer, you probably will want to take your time, but you've got a lot of house to build, a lot of pieces of wood and parts to handle, so keeping things moving is how you get a project done. I've been building for like 20-some years, not counting house I built when I was a kid, so I kind of have to keep moving if I want to get through the projects that I would like to before I die. I won't last forever. Although hopefully I last long enough to take a break once. I feel like I've been building constantly. Okay, so that's the building paper. Reading your comments. Lots of people are saying hi, and I really appreciate you guys coming here and joining me on YouTube. It's like such a fun thing. The thing that keeps me jazzed about what I'm doing. So, really quickly, building paper, tar paper, house wrap. It's known by many names in the trade. The main types, this is related to felt, what people call felt, which is basically a kind of a felty paper substance with tar in it. I think this has I don't know if it has tar. It's a different material. Hold on. The wind just blew up a bunch of sawdust. Just gotta be careful and close your eyes when that happens. It's really breezy here today. Hold on, I'm gonna clamp down I have a windscreen in front of my shop. I'll be right back. Hey, okay, that's actually a lot better. It just had, like one corner lifted up and it was letting the wind kind of blow through the tiny house. And I was trying to get in here to get out of the wind and rain and sleet. I think it's sleeting today, actively. So that's the tar paper. Its function is not to, and this is where everybody kind of goes wrong. Its function is not to make your house waterproof. You might say, why? Well, you want to keep the water off, right? That's what the siding does. The siding on the house, the roof and the siding, and the way the windows are assembled with that are what keeps the water coming off of your structure. So think about it that way. I really recommend thinking about it that way. The wrap, even though modern wraps have waterproofing elements, I have issue with some of those, and I'll explain why. Because sometimes they trap more water in the wrap or behind the wrap and cause rot than if you didn't put wrap on at all. Okay, but wrap serves a purpose, and the most important purpose that it serves is to make a little pad between the wood siding and the wood of the house, which is the wood sheathing, which is plywood or whatever. It also does serve to create somewhat of an air barrier, but your real vapor air barrier, talking louder because my compressor's running, but I'm going to leave it running because I need it in a moment. Your real vapor air barrier should be on the inside of your insulative envelope. Again, I think I talked about that before, so I'm not going to get into insulative schemes, and I'm not going to get into what you may know as rain wall or the standoffs for siding. Even though that's a valid design, it's an extra step. I'm not going to do it today. And actually, I don't do it that often. I think it makes complicatedness and trimming that it has a benefit in some kinds of siding, and impermeable materials need that gap. But like wood is a really good mate, and a dissipative barrier and wood together is a time-tested assembly. So trust me, and I've taken apart I've done remodeling for a long time, taken apart a lot of houses and fixed rot and seen what works and what doesn't, and it works. So the other kinds of barrier, or the house wraps, are Tyvek and something that's called Green Guard. It looks like a tarp. And there are others out there, fancier ones. Tyvek I'm not a big fan of it, because it doesn't do a good job at the dissipative thing, and it tends to kind of create rot sometimes. However, it is used, and usually successfully, but it doesn't have a long history. And the Green Guard is a little better because it's a little more permeable in my eyes, but it still doesn't totally accomplish the dissipative barrier as well as a traditional kind of paper substance. But they're stronger, so they work better in high wind conditions on taller buildings. And but in a tiny house, you don't really need certain kinds of technology. They do have window wrapping taping systems, and that can be good, but I think that's a crutch for bad trim carpentry and siding around the windows. If you do your siding and trim carpentry right, you keep the water coming away from your structure all times. Carpenters have been doing this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, using wood window frames and carpentry techniques, and we are just slightly evolved from that. We do have flange windows, but I'm not going to get into window technology. Anyway, siding. Getting back to the siding. let's put some siding up. So, the first siding, and I'm doing this just because I have this all over the place, is tongue and groove, which is, I'll give you a disclaimer, it's a valid siding in small amounts, but it's not the greatest siding scheme because it doesn't really have the ability to, if you can see it, give you much shelter from the weather. So the best tongue and groove is narrower stuff, and it fits together like this, and you can see there's some gap. That's what you want, that little gap in there, and that lets it expand and contract. But the drawback is if that tongue, that's this part, breaks, which siding cracks, it's exposed to the weather, it expands and contracts, the board might warp and crack its tongue off or something, then you have you kind of lose your water shedding barrier. So I'm going to show you another kind in just a moment. A bevel siding, which overlaps. Shingles also overlap, and they're a much more effective way of keeping water up. For now, I'm going to put up a little bit of tongue groove just to show you, and I'll just switch sidings as I go, because I can do that. So I have a bunch of tongue groove here. I am going to be running. I'm going to do one thing that you will probably want to do when you put on siding, and I'm going to mark studs. I'm going to do this in the virtual stud space because there's no studs attached to that piece, but your house will have studs behind the wall. So I'll be right back. Sorry guys, I'm not a baking or cooking show, so I don't have everything in little bowls in front of me, so I have to go back to my shop video. This is a chalk line, and so what I'm going to do is just going to say that the studs are on, so there, 16-inch center, so let's just say like one is there, and one's at 18, and one's at 34. Those are going to be our faux studs, and so I'm going to do that down below. Stanley tape measures don't remain hooked for me. I have beef with. Right now my favorite tape measure is a Milwaukee and a Comalon. And yeah, I'm really hard on tape measures. And I have high expectations of them. So it's just because I've built for a long time. Stanleys are okay, but just okay in my book. But if you're building your first house, you don't have to nerd out about tape measures. So I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to see if I can keep it hooked on the edge of that paper. Pull it out, and you kind of lock the winder, and it has a little chalk left. You can keep snapping. Let's see if I can do this solo. And use my foot for my line. Somewhere around there. And I'm going to reel in this time because when you reel in, it puts more chalk on the line. And then you reel back in. Last one. Okay, so that would represent my studs. You in your project may have to find where your studs are, and they may not always, you may have alternate studs around windows that aren't on the 16-inch pattern. Standard framing, of course, is 16-inch centers. Basically just means each stud starts on a 0, 16, 32, you know what I mean. I won't get into framing, but there we go. So I'm just going to start right out. I'm running staples just for ease of use today, but you will probably want to use a galvanized nails for siding. And I'm also going to use these scraps I have, so they'll have a lot of breaks, probably more than you will use on your house. So I'm just going to start on the edge. I'm just calling the floor level because kind of cheating a little bit. getting good penetration, so I'm assuming that's because of low pressure in the air system and driving the staples down. They should be below surface. All siding, you want to set your nail out. To maybe show you that close up. You want to set your nail below the surface of the wood. What it does, it compresses the wood a little bit and it gives a little kind of a spring that holds the siding tight. If your nails are right at the surface, then you're not nailing tight enough. So I'm going to turn up my air again. I'll be right back because I don't have an assistant to do that for me. Okay, so if I keep the pace, I'm back. Hey guys, how's it going? Let's see if I'm getting comments. Oh, I have no new comments. Everybody just says stuff like, Sensei says that looks satisfying and fun. And Sugarberry Baby says, part this and that and full-fledged artists. I love your tiny house designs. Thank you. Thanks guys. I'm charmed and flattered that people are enjoying this. So in this case, I'm really not setting up 2 windows. I'm just gonna measure that. That's 12 1/4. All these little pieces, and I've got a chop saw over here. I'm gonna try to move really fast for you so that you don't get too hung up on the details. So I know this is not going to make a whole lot of sense, but because I want this piece to interface well enough, I am going to leave it a little loose, and then put the one on top of it. Okay, it's okay to nail the ends so that they don't, so that even if they're not on a stud, because you want the end to be nailed down. If you have problems with your nails holding in, you can switch to screws, and I recommend using a exterior grade screw or stainless screw. Here's a board that's got part of it missing. I actually obtain, in cedar, I obtain a kind of a mill reject grade, and all it means is they're boards they can't sell at the full length, so I get a good deal, and it's perfectly good wood. So what that really means is that I just use shorter lengths, but I'm building tiny houses, so it's a really good reuse of a natural resource. They're not inferior grade wood, it's just that they aren't as long as, like, the 12-footers. And so I'm tapping this with a hammer, but if you have to tap wood, like softwood with a cedar, very hard, use a block, because then you won't bash up your tongue. This applies to flooring too. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little more serious about fastening. Fastening on the stud in this 4-inch tongue and groove siding. I am sorry, I'm still getting a little nail stand out. In this 4-inch siding, I am using a single nail, but often it's 2. But I'm going to use a single for speed here. It's just kind of like Legos. This type of wood you can install tight, meaning it doesn't have any extra gap. Sometimes you have to control the gap. If you're installing it dry, it will expand. If you're installing it wet, it will shrink. So don't put wet siding on if you can help it. It's not a good idea. I'm just kind of building this up. I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention to the seams, but to the breaks. But I just kind of want to show you how it goes together. And I'm going to use a block because that's always a good idea. And as you can see, the bottom piece is kind of a pain in the butt because it's lined up against the floor. Really, one of my problems with the nails here is that this is not a great staple gun. So it's just doesn't have much guts to the air cylinder. And oh my god, there's like a little tiny piece. So I'm doing a thing where I just mark it on the back because it's running what they call wild, where it runs outward of your wall, and that's really convenient. But if you have to run it to a window, you measure. I apologize, I'm not wearing goggles with my chop saw, but I recommend you wear goggles with your power tools at all times. I don't want to be responsible for you poking your eye out. Okay, so here's a little tongue groove. I'm going to put one more row on, and then we'll call it good. But I just want to show you how this goes together. Baby taps, the hammer really is not going to hurt the siding. Whoops. So I was a little too enthusiastic and I bashed up the wood a little bit. So you could either replace that piece or there's a really good trick. If you have hammer knocks, if you hit the nail just right, you can set it without bashing it, but I missed. So there's like little hammer marks. You can put a damp cloth and iron it. And hammer marks are often compression of the wood. I probably should show you so you know what the heck I'm talking about. Here we go, hammer marks. This is an old carpenter's trick. A lot of people don't know this. But there's the hammer marks, if you can see them. Here, I'll just make another one so you can really see how it goes. Here we go. Like a bad one. There's a bad hammer mark. So in this one, there's actually some tearing of the wood fibers, and you can't really make that totally disappear. But again, a damp cloth put over this, and then a hot iron. Basically, you're steaming the wood, and it'll steam the surface, and the hammer marks will literally pop back to their original spot. So that is like a really cool trick. Okay, I'm moving up the camera just a little bit, and Sensei says, I did have a question before the stream started. I'm gonna go way back up. Okay, I see it. And the question is this. I was going to ask if you'd ever done the Japanese charred wood, Cho Sugiban, or if you have any opinions about it. It is kind of with like green and tiny house construction, it's a little bit of a fad right now in the U.S. I've seen a bit of people trying it, but I think that it is a valid wood finish. I have not done it personally, so I can't really comment on its longevity. But I think it's burning the fiber, burning the top layer of wood, you're creating a more inert, environmentally inert part of the wood. And I think the idea there is that it prevents UV damage and rot on the top layer, or helps prevent it. You can't, even burnt trees will eventually rot. That's what I'm comparing it to, like burnt trees in the forest. They sometimes will last a really long time because the surface is burnt, but they will also eventually rot. So wood is wood. And the purpose of a lot of modern finishes is to prevent rot and UV damage. You can also let wood just silver in the sun, but the sun will eventually remove some of the surface of the wood, and it will continue to do that over time because the UV light it breaks down the wood fibers and then they erode away kind of as a powder. So it is one of the important ingredients of a lot of stains and stuff is a UV protectant, and often those are just metal oxides. Okay, onward. Let's put that last piece in, and we'll switch siding. That'll be kind of fun. Again, if you guys, that's not right. Have questions, shoot them at me, because the whole purpose of this live stream is not just for me to ramble on, but to answer your questions if you've got a project going on, and to help you get there. Building a house for the first time is a lot more involved than building a bookshelf. And sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background, so I'm going to speak up. So there is a section of assembled 4-inch tongue and groove. Anyway, so building a house is a lot more involved than building a birdhouse or a bookshelf, and there's a lot of steps and a lot of things to take into account. Especially in the modern era, people expect a lot. I see that as time goes on with the tiny houses, that people ask for more and more functionality and like modern accoutrements to be kind of incorporated in this cabin idea. You know, like a cabin may be ultra simple, and like traditionally a cabin did not have insulation, it didn't have electricity, or a cabin is a little thing in the woods. So a tiny house is a small, really minimal abode, and despite the fact that minimalism is part of the tiny house movement, there are a lot of features that people want. They want their dishwashers and refrigerators, and they want independent energy generating solar systems. And a solar system is a really cool thing. It's very expensive, but it is a cool thing. So here's 6-inch tongue and groove. It actually measures a little over 5. As the face is exposed. And one of the drawbacks about using wider tongue and groove is that the expansion and contraction exceeds the length of the tongue in weather conditions. Wood always expands and contracts with the seasons. If you're using wood siding, even wood interiors will expand and contract a little bit less, but they will still move. Wood moves. It's alive. Keep that in mind when you're building. It's gonna move. You put too many nails in the end, and it can't move, it'll crack around some of the nails. So a lot of nailing patterns for whatever siding or wood you're using have to do with allowing the wood to move appropriately and keep assembled in the way that it's supposed to keep the weather out. This is all old technology, old thinking. Okay, the next siding that I've got. Wait, I see a question. Instead of nailing siding to studs, would you... Okay, Jonathan Telfer asks, instead of nailing siding to studs, would you use screws? More stable and less squeezing. Great question. It is not as common to use screws for siding. And although I believe that you can. And here are the reasons. Because the screws that pull down flush to the surface have a countersunk head, and they tend to have, and also a screw is tighter. A nail shaft can wiggle. So this is the siding board, and here's the nail in it. A nail shaft can wiggle as the wood expands and contracts. And over time, you look at old houses with galvanized nails, and if the nails are exposed, the nail heads sometimes come out. So they're not perfect. But wood wiggles, and so screws can be better. But if it's a countersunk head, it can crack the, here. it can press the wood apart. So screws are more likely to crack siding. So just keep that in mind. A screw with a flat head would sit on the surface of the siding would look worse, but would be far less likely to crack the siding. And those are called lath screws. And they're exterior grade lath screws are actually really hard to find, but they're out there. They're just real. I get stainless ones, and they're very expensive. So yes, screws are a feasible option, but pay mind to how you use them, because over time they may crack your siding. Next question by Macalicious66. Do you think it's a good idea to mix siding materials on one structure? That seems to be a trend with tiny homes. Tongue and groove and corrugated metal and shingles all in the same house. There's nothing wrong with mixing siding materials. It makes more steps and more kinds of material that you have to buy, but there's nothing wrong with doing it, and it's common on other structures too to use a mix of sidings as you go along, or per wall or whatever. But sometimes the easiest way to do that is to divide like the siding with a vertical trim of whatever sort you need to interface with the next siding. So a metal siding might have a little step to catch the edge of the metal. It might cover the edge of the metal. Whereas a wood siding, you can side tight to a trim, and I won't get into trimmery because it's really complicated, but yes, you can mix siding types, and just keep in mind how they work differently. Metal is impervious to water, so you may have to do something a little different with metal than the wood siding as you change types, unless it's a very small piece, and then it won't create a large-scale problem with water in your structure. So yes, the answer is yes. Okay, we're going to go on to another kind of siding here, and it is bevel, which I consider far superior to tongue groove. And this is actually a very thin bevel, but it works very well for tiny houses. So it tops out at like 5/8, and it has a groove, which is called a rabbet. Spelled different than rabbit, like bunny. It's spelled R-A-B-B-E-T. This is called a rabbet, and it overlaps the lip of the next board. So this is a really great design. It's a really solid, so it keeps these boards from curling as much because they have contact with the wall, whereas traditional bevel bridges a little bit, which also isn't, there's lots of traditional type bevel out there that is working fine after years. Bevel does, the nails are exposed in bevel, as they are in tongue groove. So when you nail, this type you'd probably nail within, you want to nail above the rabbet because you don't want to crack the tongue of the board under, so you'd want to nail right about here. In this case, it's like 1.5 inches. So here, I just noticed that this board has a failure. It's cracked. If you can see that right there, and just you can see it. So I'm going to reject this board outright. Ready? Here it goes. It's on the ground in a puddle. Okay. Next. And again, I'm not going to over-weed my siding here. This has some pretty big knots, but I want to get some on the wall so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to trim off the missing top here. I'm not being extra picky about fitting because I want you guys to see some siding going up, but you spend a little more time fitting your siding, especially when you're working around windows. Spend a little more time drinking coffee when you're working around sleet and wind. Brr. But that's what keeps you going. I make, measure my wall first. I make coffee in the morning. 37 inches is the length of my house. This is the whole house right here. I make coffee in the morning. When I wake up and get to work on the computer and do my design stuff, and I make another batch of coffee later on because I give it to my carpenters, and that's like through the winter. That's a really they really like that. It's like it's a cheap gift, I guess I should say. I don't charge them for a coffee fund or anything stupid like that. I just give my carpenters coffee. I think it's the least I can do because we work partially outside and it's not warm. Okay, first board. And what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to guess that this is mixed siding. This isn't technically proper, but I'm going to lap it over the tongue of the tongue and groove. And then I'm going to eyeball where I want the nails to be, but if you're using nails, you might want to actually measure, because it'll look better. So 1.5 inches up from the bottom on this. This will be different for every kind of siding that you use. They all have different nailing schemes. I mean, a single nail. This is a thinner siding, so 2 nails will create, as the wood expands and contracts, the nail in the thinner part will crack the wood. So In this case, the one nail and the staples I'm using are insufficient, so you'll be using a galvanized siding nail. They're eight penny nails, and it'll go into the stud, so they're very secure actually. Or you'll use a big nail gun that drives those 8 penny nails in, that are in a strip or a coil, and that's a really good way to do it. In fact, I will get some and show you, because why tell you about it and then do the opposite? It's like setting a bad example for your children. You guys aren't my children. I'm the child here. I'll be right back with some nails. Thanks for your patience, folks, because I'm not a cooking show and I don't have everything sitting in nice little bowls on the desk in front of me. This is an 8 penny galvanized nail, and this will last a very long time in siding. And I'm just gonna switch to these. Let's do it. So I'm gonna get you looking at what I'm doing. And I realize I had the camera a little high, so you might not have seen it before, but here we go. I'm going to put some nails in pretty much on top of the staples I just drove, so don't do that. If you have to do it for real, if you put the wrong fasteners in, pull them out of the boards and put in the new ones. You can put 2 fasteners sometimes, but just pay attention to how much you're peppering your wood with stuff. So normally I would use a pouch. Let's see if I have one. I don't, but since I'm not climbing all over, I'm going to put them in a pile on the ground next to me. Okay, nails. You guys got me hand driving nails today. That is something. They're really easy to drive because there's not studs behind this. So again, imagine you're in real life. Okay, there we go. And I get to show you how to set nails. So hold on, here we come. Okay, so this nail I just drove is properly set. So I hit it. Sometimes I hit it a little. It's something that takes a while to learn, but I hit it a little askance with the head of the hammer. So the head of the hammer came down on it. Let's see if I can do this while I'm like a little bit at an angle like that. And I didn't even leave a dent, which is great, but it set it down in the wood. That's what you want, because that will not expand out. This nail is not properly set, so I might not be able to do this very well while I'm holding the camera, but better. Not too bad. Also because I'm not working with, I don't have studs behind, it's harder to set nails because when you nail into harder material, here, I'm going to lower this. Of course, then when I'm up close, all you'll see is my belly button, but you'll see what I'm working on a little better. Okay, here we go. So let's put on another piece. Oh, this is a good one. Big edge knot. That I consider unacceptable. Knots sometimes fall out later, but it can also, compromise the weatherability of that board. So I'm going to remove that knot. I'm going to cut it off right at the knot. And remember we're at 37 inches, so I'm going to do that. I somehow misplaced my carpenter pencil, so I'm using a pen. And sometimes you use whatever's around. Older carpenters used a scribe. Here's a very nice little scribe that I have. It's just an awl. It's an awl, but an awl is also a scribe. And when you have to mark a piece of wood, makes a mark. You don't want to do that if you're going to sand it and finish it like a piece of furniture, but it also makes less visible mark sometimes than a pencil, so that's a scribe. It also makes a more long-lasting mark, so it's easier to, if you put a mark on a floor with a pencil, it gets trod away. And look at that, I just looked at the floor and there's my pencil. Okay, so now I have a scribe and a pencil and a pen. I'm just really quick with the saw cuts here, but just want to show you how it goes. So here, another thing, I'm just allowing the groove in the siding to regulate its placement. But in real life, you may do a few rows and then check for level and correct if need be. That was a great one. In this case, I'm going to fasten the other end of this. Whoops. Okay. The wood looks a little splitty on here, so I was just doing a nail doling technique that my dad taught me. And it worked. It did not split the wood. Eyeballing my nail placement, but if you want your wall to look really clean, you can actually put the chalk line. You wouldn't use a chalk line. You just take like a ruler along your chalk line and drop your nail down right on the spot. All right, that's that one. Let's put one more. This is great. Doing some siding. Doing some siding for a house that doesn't exist. All right, I'm not gonna weed out the anomalies too much here because I want to get on to the next thing. And let's see if I can do something special for you after this. One nail, two nail, three nails. If you bend your nail by accident, I did it on purpose because I never bend nails. Haha, just kidding. I do bend nails, but let's bring you over. Whee! Okay, if you bend your nail by accident, the easiest way is to straighten it. You can hit it to straight, and then you really have to be careful because once it's bent, it'll want to bend again. I'm shaking while I'm doing this, but getting it. Also, you can use the claw of your hammer to straighten out nails. You see what I'm doing? You guys might be wondering, what's that black wire? That, my dears, is waterproof Ethernet cable. That is a good thing. I happen to be able to junction. I can put Ethernet connectors on. So in this house, I'm installing an exterior Ethernet connection, so he can run his internet straight in. But most people don't ask me for that because they're using Wi-Fi or something like that. Okay, so here is what we ended up with. Check it out. There is 3 beautiful rows of this bevel siding. Again, I didn't sort it perfectly. You know, there's like a glitch right here that I would actually reject because it would let water into the wood and cause it to go bad. And here's 4 rows of tongue and groove. Again, staples, not my favorite for exterior, but actually they do work if you use the right kind. I use stainless staples really often. That's because I build all the time. I would recommend you use galvanized nails like what I just used. this. You use these for siding. They're old, tried and true siding. If you're putting on metal siding, I'll mention this because somebody asked about it earlier. Metal siding is probably best affixed with screws, because you use screws, the little washers, and it makes a seal. And there you go. So okay, I just see a ton of stuff came through. Somebody asked, Ryan Mickles, I live just north of you on Anderson Island. Do you ever do site tours? I do occasionally. I'm swamped lately. It's a long story. My carpenters have been, there was like a norovirus that came through town, so we're behind schedule. I'm really swamped. I do tours when I can. I don't always have a complete tiny house around. I have whatever I'm working on at the moment. So yeah. Somebody here, Bobby Cornell. Sorry, I always say somebody because the names are so small that I can't always read them. Asks, wondering about Sujiban from pallet wood, and Sensei answers her, you have to be careful with pallet wood because some of it's treated with toxic materials. Thank you. That's a good point. That makes sense. Pallets are interesting and come from all over the world, all different kinds of wood, all different materials. Most pallets are stamped to indicate which treatments were used. In my experience, there's a heck of a lot of pallets that come through that have no markings on them whatsoever. Who knows where they came from? So, but yes, some occasionally have markings. So, so you never know what's going to be in the pallet. So now, kind of done with the siding segment here. If you guys don't have any additional questions about it, I'm going to go on to one more thing before I wrap up for today. I'm going to take off my tool pouch, which is this. I use a mini clip-on pouch, but I am more an engineer than I am a framing carpenter, so I switch to framer's pouches when I am framing or siding. But this is my all-around-the-shop pouch. Has a little bit of everything. Has the best pliers I've ever had my hands on. They come from Germany. And a bunch of other good stuff. But I can do a lot of work with that little pouch. But I tend to work a little light because of my having to switch hats, so to speak. Okay, so I'm going to run you over with me to, and you can see this tiny house. It's coming together. Let me see if I can get you a look straight on. This is the fuchsia house, and it's really, really turning out amazing. We've got painted trims. Again, it's under my shelter and we're all wrapped for the winter, so it's really hard to see much. But it also, we did the bevel siding and it turned out beautiful. We're doing just a butt type joint with a silicone fill, and then the siding has not been finished yet. We're going to put a finish on it. So siding, there you go. We also side tight to the trim. I'm going to show you that. This is called tight siding. It's a little older concept. I don't caulk these joints. If a bevel and a shingle overlapping type sidings will carry water outward. On a tongue and groove, there's actually caulk under. The trim is sealed to the building paper with a caulk, so there's not influx ability under the trim. The trims are also sealed to each other in there. You can see some of the squeeze out of the material, but we use really high quality caulks when we do our exteriors. I actually use no caulks from Home Depot. The only ones I would use would be OSI Quad. Here, I'm back. But Home Depot and Lowe's have pretty low quality caulks. I'm gonna grab a little holder for my camera here so that I can do one last thing today. And what I'm gonna do is, here it is. It's my little prop. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run this way and see if you can see the special tiny house. I'm not going to be able to get to it, but oh, there it is. That's the Ark house. I get way over here. I get it right. And it's out in the meadow, and I am doing some work on it. Just watching you guys. If I see the bitrate drop off, I'll stop. There's the Ark house. It's getting a cleaning. Wow, I got a heck of a Wi-Fi modem. And I'm still going, you guys. This is amazing. I can't believe my Wi-Fi goes this far. I have a really cool Apple, like a directional Wi-Fi device. It's their like fancy airport, and it's getting me. Oh, there I go. As I get stations and something else very special that I will tell you about in like less than a week. So stay tuned. And I will tell you that I'm going to have a video tour of it up in less than a week. So, but that's not why it's back here. I'm just doing that because everybody asked me to see the inside, and I've never had pictures of the inside of it, except for just a very few. I am now in my office, which is known as the Squirrel Hut. Excuse me. I'm in my office. This is the Squirrel Hut. Welcome. And it is warm in here, and I could not be happier. It's so dang cold. It's so dang damn cold. I'm going to curse a little bit because I'm a builder, and sometimes you have to curse to get through it. So, fucking A. Fucking A. You build a house, you will curse too. It's okay, you know. It's colorful. It makes your life more enjoyable. Depends on who you're talking to, maybe, but it makes my life more enjoyable. We also try to just have a lot of fun. Me and the carpenters, we do what we can to keep our spirits up when it's like this. Okay, so I see a couple more questions, and then what I'm gonna do is we're gonna sketch some tiny house stuff. Okay, Rose Zawaruka, and pardon the pronunciation, is a name I don't know how to pronounce. Do you ever use solar seal caulks? And the answer is no, I haven't encountered them. There's a lot of different caulking technology out there. Bubby Cornell asks, do you recommend vertical versus horizontal timber cladding siding? Well, timber doesn't exactly usually refer to siding, but I think you're talking about wood cladding siding. Vertical techniques, there are a couple. Board and bat is one that I'm familiar with, and board and bat is functional. You typically see it on barns. You do see it on some houses. It's where you use usually a large boards. They're like sometimes 12 inches wide, and you run them, and they are attached on one edge, not the other, because otherwise they will break their nails out. They're attached on one edge, and there's a gap, and then attached on, so they're all nailed on the same side, and then you put a batten, which is screwed or nailed between the gap. Anyway, it's hard to describe, but it allows them to expand and contract because they're big boards. Large boards might be something you have if you're milling your own wood, like slabs off the side of logs, but like 12-inch siding quality wood is hard to find these days, at least around here. So board and bat vertical is less common. It's not that it's impossible, but it's there. Sensei says, we missed the Ark house because you cut out. Yeah, I got far enough away that it probably cut out. I didn't go inside. I can't get that far away from my Wi-Fi. But like I said, I'm going to take pictures of it and get those up on my YouTube and on my website, honestly, in the next week. So I promise. I'm very excited about that. It's such a cool place. And then it is going on a little bit of a journey, and I will again, you'll understand what I'm up to in just a week. So let's draw some pictures. This is what like I'm doing this because this is what it's all about. Like, designing houses is like the putting the parts together and the siding and the nails. That's like one side. That's like the nuts and bolts part. But creating really like innovative, functional, small structures is kind of one of the things that tiny house movement is all about. So keep designing, and we're going to do some right now. So here is where it all begins for me. There's my paper and my pad, and this is how it starts. You might start with a floor plan. Lots of people do that. So you say, geez, I've got this, it's a tiny house. You've got, it's going to be longer than it is wide, right? Got a floor plan. And you have a front door. Let's say the front door is right here. And you know that right on, maybe you want to enter into your living area. So over here you want a cushy chair. Yeah. And over here, yeah, then you could have like a side table and another cushy chair. I'm just, cushy chairs are kind of the bomb. Just because you have a tiny house doesn't mean you have to sit on a little wood bench. So there's another cushy chair. And then, because it's a tiny house, it probably has a bathroom. I'm just making a really simple one. I'm going to draw it across the back. On this side there's going to be a toilet. On this side there's going to be a shower. There's the drain. There's a shower head. There's a shower curtain. Maybe there's a window. There's not a lot of room for a sink, but you could have a very small, you can find there's these really compact sinks that you can find these days. Or there's little, there's Marine World has little folding sinks that fold up against the wall. And that's kind of a hip thing, I think, for tiny houses. I haven't really seen one yet, but I've seen some really weird little sinks. But so I like to use pocket doors. But if you don't want a pocket door, you could have a swinging one. And then, maybe I'm just keeping it really simple here. Here's a kitchen. I'll draw a countertop. And let's make it really small. This is a short house. We don't have much room to work with, right? There's going to be a big window right here, right? So that's a window. I'm going to put one over the kitchen area. You probably want more. People always want more windows, but they're expensive. So I'm going to put a. How about right on? Okay, I'm going to do it this way. I'll put a sink right here, and a 2-burner range, because they don't take up much room. I love that. And you can have an induction range or a gas range. If you're building a tiny house and you don't want to deal with gas, use electric for now. You can always upgrade later. And then maybe this part of the countertop like flips up or something, so you have an extra cutting board. So that's a flip. I'm just sketching because this is where it all begins. I've done this a lot of times, so I have some habits, and I know there's lots of other designs, but like over here, like you're gonna need. Okay, so under the counter here is the fridge. We'll do an under counter. I like under counter fridges. They don't take up much room. I know you might think like, geez, I need like 18 packs of beer and like lunch meat and chicken salad sandwiches and but really, how big of a fridge do you need? Is just you? Hi, I'm right here. So I like the under counter fridges. They don't take up much room, leaves more counter space. You can put little shelves above to hold your plates and stuff, or you can put overhead cabinets if you like those. So this cabinet, pantry. This cabinet, people need storage. Armoire. It can have drawers on the bottom and place to hang a couple coats and shirts on the top, or no hanging and just some shelves here. So it's getting compact in here, but again, this is like really short. If the tiny house is this much longer, then you have that much more. Geez, you can have like a yoga studio. Just kidding. You have a yoga studio over here, and or you could have a door and you could have an office
But usually people don't need extra walls unless they have like a kid or something and they want the kid to be able to sleep while they're working on dinner, or them to be able to sleep. You know, so like tiny houses don't commonly have rooms, but they can. And sometimes that's needed when there's more people than one. If there's one person, you just need a studio, and you can save yourself some room and time and just have it be one open space, except for the bathroom, maybe, you know. So then here's this tiny house. Where's the other window? I don't know. There's one in the bathroom there. So maybe you want a window right here. There's a door. Armoire pantry. You know, who knows what the roof line's going to be. So like, I'm going to draw as a box from the side. I'm assuming you're going to probably want to be using the trailers that... So the bathroom's up here. So let's put the hitch down here and the fender kind of over here. So it's going to push our door a little that way. We'll figure it out. Fenders get in the way of doors. If it's a little trailer, you can use a single axle. I know you'd be like, what? All the tiny houses have double axles, but that's not necessary because there's like 8,000-pound axles. Okay, let's stay away from 8,000-pound axles. We'll make it double axle. It's much easier to find a trailer like that. Trailer base. Tiny house does not have to be on a trailer either. If it's not, then you save yourself some money right there because you're building it on a foundation. Okay, then we know the front door is going to be smashed right up against there. Man, I sure love archtop doors. So I'm going to do that. The round window. There's a window right next to there. Let's make it tall so it lets lots of light in. Let's say that this is the high side of the house. So, I'm drawing this kind of backwards. Sometimes I draw the shape and then I work what's going to work with the house in next. So I'm going to say, if there's a loft over here, I want this to definitely be the high side. So I'm just going to make a single roof line, and it's going to be it's going to have a dormer. Whoops, let's see, I'm just like going crazy here. I'm going to arch the dormer too, and then let's make kind of it's a little bit of a far overhang on the front. Here's something I've done before is I've cantilevered the loft out. That makes a really heavy tongue weight, so you have to have a heavier duty trailer, but now it's going to resemble the Moondragon. I'm just going to take off the cantilever because I want you guys to see how, you know, simplicity and minimalism works. You can't always afford to go totally crazy with your design. So I'm going to keep it like that, and the front of the trailer is like this. I'm going to make a little bump out here to kind of take in this shape. I'm really not getting fancy with my trims. I usually develop my designs much farther than this, and then we need some window that matches with that sort of thing. So I'm going to draw an arched trio of windows so that the center one is big enough to escape in the case of a fire. So that's the center window. And then the side windows are going to be little side lights that don't open, because the more you make shaped windows, the more expensive it is. And then there's like a bathroom and pantry, but like I see the need for like a little extra light. We can make the armoire and the pantry end at some point, and let's put a little here. I know for strength I want to keep the door area continuous, so I'm going to put a little window up here. We can make that open if we want. It would let out heat really nice. And I am just going to do something. And do this little sawtooth design. I don't know when the last time I've actually done this, but I have always liked the sawtooth design. And here, let's just use a real eraser. That's what these are. Yeah, we're just making a tiny house here. I don't know, how tall did that get? It might have gotten a little too tall, but we can work that out when we do the final engineering. And we'll just put the sawtooth right above the joint in the windows. I'm just, you know, doing what I do. Oh, symmetry. Where's my symmetry? This is exactly how I design houses, you guys. No mystery. We just make it up as we go. We don't make it up. It's just we do what we have to make it work. And this would look really cool with a little like protruding rafter tail, you know. It kind of steps up the structure a little bit, and then here's this trim piece on either side. We can bring the sawtooth motif into the trim and break the trim into two pieces. I don't know. Yeah, that's better. I like that one better. So let's echo. You know, I used to use an eraser a lot. That's how it goes. I'm not going to elaborate any more on this design. It just is what it is. Except now I want to build it. Damn it. This is what happens. I draw them and I'm like, damn it, that's what I want to build next. But, you know, I'm busy. I've got some stuff on the table. I can't build it just yet. Somebody want this one? I build it for you. Yeah, let's build this. Anyway, there it is, tiny house. There's a shower here. Maybe there's like a little, you know. I usually use little round vents, but that's because I make them myself. So there's a little vent for the shower fan, like up above the shower. I don't know. There's a loft in there. Windows have trims. What makes them look good. Some windows don't have trims. There's the modern designs that like are all, you know, flush and shit. But I like trims. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist. Gives the house its shape. And you can like make the trim play off of the shape of the house. So, you know, here it goes. What's these windows trims look like? They're going to slope out on the ends. And they're just going to have a gentle arch. Or they'll be asymmetrical. Damn it. Asymmetrical is where it's at. Window trim will be thicker on that end than that end. Yeah. I'm just showing you guys how it goes here. And here's a door. I'm like, maybe this door doesn't want a round window. Maybe it needs something else. Like that. Yeah, I kind of liking that. Goes a little better with this. And I don't know, what side's the doorknob on? Why does it seem like the back? I don't know. Tires aren't really that small, they're more like this. Okay, so that's a tiny house of some sort anyway. It's weird, but okay, I'm back. I went to the zone. Thanks for going there with me. Cool, I got a question. I've seen people build out over the hitch. Is that something you'd recommend against, or have you ever done it before? Yeah, totally, I built out over the hitch. It changes the balance of the trailer a bit. It can put a lot of weight out on the tongue. And so what that does is you have to engineer appropriately. And you may even need to order a trailer that is specifically designed to take that tongue weight. The last trailer I got, it was brought to me by a client that I built out over the hitch. I had to weld reinforcement onto the hitch end of the house to accommodate the overhang. And that would be the Moondragon house. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing this your first time, keep it simple. Or if you've got somebody helping you with trailer plus framing design, and you can kind of integrate those, yeah, you can build out over the hitch. But it creates a heavier house. If the overhang is too low, your truck might collide with it when you turn, so you have to keep that in mind. So yeah, it creates complication. It creates expense. But keeping it back onto the base of the trailer is really kind of where it's all about. One last question. Rose Z asks, what do you think about aluminum trailers? They're expensive. Aluminum doesn't have as good of a lifespan characteristic as steel. It's very recyclable. But unless you know a good aluminum trailer maker, well, you may spend up to twice as much to get an aluminum trailer That might not totally be true. I know there's some aluminum trailer makers will be, no, they're comparable, but they're not really. They're much more expensive. Aluminum, when it gets stressed, cracks. And steel, yeah, it can, but steel has a much better repetitive stress characteristic than aluminum. Again, somebody who's designing aluminum takes that into account, so go to a really good aluminum trailer maker if you're going to do that. But really, for tiny houses, my advice is don't mess with the aluminum idea. It will save you a little bit of weight. You'll spend way more money, and you'll have to be a little bit more careful about your design and tongue weight because you don't want to over-stress your trailer frame. And it's harder to get it welded and worked on later. So there you go. Rose thorns or juniper. Sensei says, this design makes me think of rose thorns or junipers. Yeah, I guess I see that. I'm very influenced by the natural world. Spend a lot of time kind of staring at trees and bushes and birds and whatever else because it's relaxing. So, so I have to wrap it up, you guys. Thanks for joining me. Again, one more look. This is what we came up with today. It's a crazy little tiny house that's a little asymmetrical with a compound arched roof line. Those are hard to build, but I love building them. So I say figure it out if you're compelled to do that, or contact me if you need a design for a roof of that sort. I'm just about to start doing kits, but that takes some work. I'm not ready yet. So if you have an idea for something you want to see in a kit, ask me. I'm talking about roof kits. I'm willing to start talking about it as a builder, just because I have the ability to do it. And I want other people to have access to roofs that are really inspiring and functional and strong. So if you have an idea, let me know. If you want to build a curved roof, let me know. They're really fun, actually. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap up. This is, again, Ask Zyl Live. It's my live stream, and its sole purpose is to answer your questions about building tiny houses, and it's pretty much for do-it-yourselfers, or people that are just kind of gathering information about what it takes to have a build or get through a build. So yeah, it's not so much to see my shop or have a tour of things, even though sometimes I'll show you something that's out there. You know, I'll do that if I can, but really this is about building, and that is really where it's at. Tiny house movement is a really revolutionary thing, and I think that it is, its time is here. And what that means is that with the kind of expansion of loans and debt that people have gotten into, obtaining some sort of obtaining and owning a living space for themselves, we kind of had to get to this point in the world. Everybody right now in the world has been fairly interested. Well, I can't say everybody, but it is a worldwide movement at this point. I see stuff going on in all different major kind of civilized countries, interest in the tiny house movement, and that is because the time has come to kind of downsize our ideas about what it takes to build a house and whether that house should be attached to a piece of land and movable, and how much energy it takes to heat it and keep it up, and that is really important. So subscribe to my YouTube channel right here if you want to see more of this, and if you want to see video tours of my houses. Like I said, I'll be working on one this week. And come visit me next week at 10:30 a.m. That's Pacific Standard Time, and I will do this again. And I will have some other things. I said I'd talk about floors this time, and I didn't. We'll talk about that a little bit next time. So thanks, you guys, and we'll see you later.